podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
So, Ollie out, Ince in. You heard it here first.
I quite enjoyed Gary Lineker calling Paul Ince out on his nonsense.
He did, and Paul Ince laughing along with it and then crying on the inside.
That was what Scott from Republic of Mancunia tweeted, wasn't it? The performance was terrible. I mean, the Arsenal game I thought was okay.
Yeah, I mean, we said it last week.
We talked about it.
Ollie said in the pre-match press conference for the Wolves game that he didn't think United played badly at all. And I tend to agree with him.
I mean, I thought, yeah, we talked about this last week anyway. But this game, the first half, I actually thought United were doing okay. We're obviously completely dominant in possession and struggling a bit in the final third. Just was kind of a question of almost like I felt like something good might happen. But then towards the end of that half, that was when that one really big Wolves chance on the counter happened and Romero made the good save. And that was a bit of a worry. But generally speaking, I thought probably the second half will maybe impose ourselves a bit, and Ollie might even make some sort of positive changes at half time, as has happened a number of times. But actually, whether it's just there were a lot of players in this team who have recently been injured or are battling injuries, and it was all a bit of a bridge too far for the selection. I loved the starting 11. I thought brilliant. It was great to see that kind of first choice Solskjaer starting 11 for the most part, with the exception of perhaps Delo and Romero in terms of what was his initial starting 11. So, no complaints there. Just was a really poor performance in the second half, I thought.
Very, just insipid. I mean, lots of possession for United, lots of passes, lots of meaningless passes. Is that the right way of putting it? Just not penetrative. Moving a bit too slowly. Not the performance we've come to expect from Ollie's United. I don't know whether it's the injuries and players coming back or they're just feeling a bit leggy. There's been intense games over the last few weeks. Either way, yeah, just nothing happening. Wolves had almost double the number of shots, 3 times the number of shots on target for all United's possession. And passing around midfield just didn't really ever look that dangerous. And Wolves looked dangerous a lot, didn't they? Especially from set pieces, but also on the break. And Ollie said after the game that you can't argue with the result. I mean, I suppose you could try and make some kind of case for United. It was just so flat, and it'd be hard to justify anything than a defeat from that one. And what else do we say about that one? It's I guess we have one less tournament to be in.
Yeah, although that's the one I really wanted to be in a lot of ways. It felt like
it's the most realistic chance of it was the most realistic chance of a trophy, you'd say.
Not anymore. I guess one of the things that we can talk about, given that, I mean, I suppose we have to discuss 2 defeats on the bounce. Going to be a real interesting. I guess Watford at home after the international break is a kind of ideal level of challenge, really, because it's not an intimidating level of challenge, but Watford are having an absolutely excellent season by the standards that they would have set for themselves.
Yeah, in the cup semi-final, unlike United. Although I was thinking as Wolves were beating us that this doesn't half-hand City the FA Cup. Watford, Brighton, and who did Brighton play? Someone from the lower reaches, Reading or something like that. Watford and City in the semis.
Well, it's very early 80s, isn't it? Brighton and Watford in the later stages of the...
Alongside Wolves, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't their last trophy in like 1980 or something?
I don't remember Wolves in the kind of like the period where... Because we played Brighton in the final, didn't we? And then there was the
83.
final... Did Watford win it?
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't they the year afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then we won it the year after that. But we're not winning it this year. And I mean, I'm certainly not worried about the glorious Ole Solskjaer revolution. I would say this is by far the worst performance, and it was a bad time, given it's a knockout competition. It's a really bad time to have
Yeah.
the worst performance so far. But of course, the positives have vastly outweighed the negatives so far, and it is going to be fascinating to see what the response is from the collective, really, and. I mean, I don't think anyone really. I thought Luke Shaw was all right, but then there was the second goal, I guess. I don't know. I'm not good enough at knowing about what defenders are supposed to do to know whether he deserves tremendous opprobrium for the way he handled.
Well, he was definitely bullied, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he didn't even do the decent thing and chop the guy down. So, yes, I mean, it's not a great piece of defending, but he had a decent game overall. I mean, it's not like any of the defenders actually played badly, because I thought for the most part they defended reasonably well, and Romero had a good game apart from the second goal, which you'd say, perhaps he could have done better.
Yeah.
Midfield, it was just so insipid, and
Yeah.
it's not as if they were even that bad. They just weren't very penetrative, and I guess that would have been our first choice midfield, really, and you'd expect a little bit more. But Matic has been injured recently. So has Herrera. Pogba's played a lot. So, maybe that's caught up on them.
The one player that I thought I would say was bad in that game was Marcus Rashford, who scored right at the end, and he was trying things, and he was not afraid of the ball, and he's a young player and he's going to have bad games. But I don't quite understand why Marcus Rashford hasn't had a break at some point since that second half of that Liverpool game.
He might well have done if Lukaku hadn't been out and Martial hadn't been out. Or Martial hadn't been out and Lingard hadn't been out.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I feel like he should have been given a break anyway at some point. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but he definitely needs one. He's going away with England, presumably. I hope he doesn't play too much in this international break. I really do.
I actually can't remember who England are playing. Is this Euro 2020 qualifiers? Kosovo and Bulgaria or something like that? Maybe.
Is it Nations League stuff?
Or is it Nations League?
Who knows? Can't keep up.
No,
with all
well, I
this
think
nonsense.
the Nations League semi-finals in the summer.
Right. Okay.
So and it's like 3 days after the Champions League final, something like that.
Might just be friendlies anyway. We could probably look this up, but I don't know. I'm a bit demotivated, to be honest. I'm a bit demotivated by watching that game. We're recording this immediately after the game on Saturday night, and because we talked a big game last week, we're like, yeah, we'll definitely get a shout out, 100%. And then about 20 minutes after that, Ed was like, oh, I'm going to China on Sunday. But we've managed to get a show out anyway.
That's how committed we are.
Yeah, exactly. But having said that, it's not actually going to be a good show. So who knows? Because I've got not much to say about that game. And let's just hope it doesn't have a major bearing on the morale around the camp. I mean, always a shame to go into an international break on a sort of down note. The down note of 2 defeats on the bounce, but particularly the down note of that performance against Wolves. But Watford 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon at Old Trafford at the end of March, and we start the project all over again, and the kind of march for a top 4 place to see if we can get back into the Champions League, which we're still in, and we have had a draw of the Champions League since we last spoke. And it's probably fair to say it could have been an easier draw, couldn't it?
Well, you got to beat them all. Beat Juve and PSG so far. So now we've just got to beat Barca, Liverpool in the semi, and City in the final to win it. No problem. No problem.
In the Champions League, they have VAR in every stadium, which will be a disadvantage to City, who were tremendously benefited today by VAR not being used in the lower league stadiums.
And this just doesn't make any sense because it's set up at Swansea. But for the sake of consistency, they'll only use it in Premier League stadiums. Work that one out for me.
I mean, I was moaning about this in earlier rounds on the show, I think, but this is the craziest anomaly. I remember the talk when VAR was being discussed, and people would say, well, one of the things about not just VAR, but technology in general, is it means that there is a divide. At some level of the game, there's a divide in the way that the rules are applied. And I never was too bothered about that. But I think within the same round of the competition, different games being refereed under different rules is absolutely ballistically bananas.
Well, especially as City are now in the semi-final, and it's hard to justify it. I mean, two really, really dodgy decisions has helped them out there. Anyway, there you go.
In the Wolves game, there was a big VAR decision. Lindelof was sent off by Martin Atkinson. Not a friend of the Rantcast, Martin Atkinson. Not official. He's an enemy of the podcast.
He's an enemy of humanity and refereeing and football.
He's an enemy of Man United, anyway. That's for sure. But he sent Victor Lindelof off, but he wasn't allowed. It's like, no, Martin Atkinson, you can't continue your unjustified agenda against the greatest club in the history of football.
I mean, it's late and there's a follow through, but at no point are Victor Lindelof's feet above the ground, and the rule is it has to be dangerous rather than reckless, and it's marginal whether that's dangerous, really. So anyway, the fourth official didn't think it was and called it a clear and obvious error.
I like the way that you said above the ground instead of off the ground. So as if like Victor Lindelof's feet at no point were above the ground. They were buried under the ground the whole time.
Yeah, very good.
Anyway.
So anyway, I think that one got that one right. There are of course a couple of other ones that weren't sent to VAR. A tug by Chris Smalling, who has never seen a wrestle in the box he didn't like. And
he's going to be in so much, as has been widely observed, he's going to be in so much trouble next season, Chris Smalling.
He's going to have to learn the errors of his ways. Well, he will do when he's given a penalty 3 times out of 3 in the first 3 weeks of the season. And then a handball, or not a handball, when it hit the Wolves player. I mean, I guess his hands were nearer than Kimpembe the other week, and that's the thing that saved him.
Diogo Dalot is just like, well, I know what happens now. We get a penalty and a miraculous comeback and everything's fine, right? That's how this works. But it was not how it worked today, and nor should it have done. I thought that was very different from the Kimpembe one, and it also hit him. I mean, it hit him basically. If his arm wasn't there, it would still have hit his body. Unlike the Kimpembe one, where if he only had one arm, that would have flown past him into the top corner, or wildly over the bar, or
top corner of the stand.
Yeah. So Barcelona in the Champions League, I mean, easily the hardest draw we could have got. I don't know how anyone could, in their right minds, be genuinely bullish about this. We, of course, beat PSG, who are a better side than United on paper. Barcelona have Leo Messi, which, as we saw against Lyon in the week, the insane level of just being a difference maker that Leo Messi brings. I mean, Ronaldo had scored that hat-trick the day before.
He normally gets one sort of muscle injury a year, doesn't he?
Does he? Is this the time?
It's round about now because he plays 75 games a season. So it's about now when the body starts to break down. So, yeah, fingers crossed, hey? Because, I mean, he's 75% of Barcelona.
Especially at the moment. Luis Suarez is falling apart, which is good. Dembele is injured. I mean, they're still a decent side, obviously. I mean, I guess better than decent, but Messi is the thing that about them that is truly special and truly intimidating now.
Look, I guess we're moving on from the Wolves game quickly because there's not a lot to say in there. Normally we're 50-odd minutes into this podcast and we're still talking about the first game of the week. 12 minutes in and we're like, let's move on quickly. And talk about the Champions League. I mean, look, these are the games we wanted, right? So yeah, absolutely. And odds are that United go out. Of course, the odds are United go out. But we've seen already in this tournament that it can happen. I don't expect it to, but I'm not going to get on the downer just yet because we're a while away from that game as well. It's in April, isn't it? So we've got a few weeks to build up to it first.
I know exactly how long it is because I've got the week off of the home leg. So I might go to that game. I might at least try and go to that game. I'm not sure yet though. But it would be amazing. I was at the last Champions League quarterfinal, first leg at Old Trafford. I think it's first leg at Old Trafford.
Well, yeah, it is. It is the first leg at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Because City are also playing that week.
Right.
So we were supposed to be playing away first, but of course City get all the decisions from UEFA or the FA or whoever it is.
It's just that it's just the pre-established rule about it's done on who finishes above who in the league the season before.
Outrageous.
Yeah. So listen, it's going to be a fascinating tie. It is really exciting. And it's really cool and as friend of the show, Cal Gildart said to me over WhatsApp, if you're going to be in a European Cup quarter-final, you might as well be in a European Cup quarter-final, which this definitely is. And I'm sure Travelling Reds are super excited about a trip with Ole to the Nou Camp.
No doubt about it. And I hope there's a decent amount of tickets and we'll get a good crowd there. Of course, they don't have much of a culture of away support in Spain, so you normally get about 3 away supporters among the 100,000 Barcelona supporters. But I'm sure they will. Mid-April, the first one.
April the
10th, and then April 10th and the 16th. Well, I'm kind of glad they come back to back as well. And it isn't like a month between the games like there was against PSG.
Although that worked out pretty nicely, to be fair.
Worked out all right. And some tasty other games. So Liverpool and Porto.
Is that a tasty? It's weird that you said some tasty other games and then picked by far the least tasty game in the draw.
Well, I was just reading them off in order. So,
okay.
And then I was going to say the one we probably wanted, Porto, that is. Spurs, right. City. Spurs and City play each other 3 times in a week, I think. Which is interesting. And Juve Ajax, which that is a tasty game, very tasty game.
Yes, very. I mean, I don't know. I asked Tom to cut it out, but I'm pretty sure that nobody would have cut it out. You talked about Juve being a threat later in the draw on the last show, and I said, they're 2-0 down to Atletico Madrid. They're out of the tournament. Atletico never concede goals, and then Atletico, having been knocked out by Real Madrid every Champions League since 2014, were then knocked out by a Ronaldo hat-trick, which is the closest you can get to being... Yeah, it's absolutely brutal. And then lots of lionisation of Ronaldo, which I can't handle.
It's interesting. I mean, we always used to say it was there was something we didn't like about Ronaldo because, one, it was almost like playing football on cheat mode, and also he's just not a very nice guy. But we add to that now, since the last time we had a big chat about Ronaldo, of course the tax case came through, so he's a bona fide tax cheat.
Although,
and of course,
that part, like, he's just a Spanish footballer. Like this.
Yeah, well, no. It's just that in Spain they actually enforce the rules that we don't in Britain, which is if you are shifting money through a corporation overseas into a tax haven, that's income because there's only one source it's coming from. So It's called IR35 in the States and something similar here and here in the UK, and we just don't like to enforce it because, of course, we're a tax haven now post-Brexit. Or nearly post-Brexit. Are we post-Brexit? Some point will happen. Anyway.
We are not.
So they do enforce that rule in Spain. That's why all these footballers get caught and done. But of course, there's an even more serious allegation, more detail coming out in the last couple of weeks about Ronaldo's alleged rape, which is extremely serious and very credible as well. So, yeah, plenty of reason to be very concerned about Ronaldo's lionisation.
Lots of excellent reporting on that for those who want to take the time to go and read it. And I guess it's probably an important thing to do in terms of education, rather than kind of ignoring these things for the sake of sporting expediency.
Well, we've said on this show before, haven't we, talked about can you love the man and the art? Here, I don't know whether we love either.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible sports person, obviously, but that doesn't, I'm really bad at separating the art from the artist. Anyway, that's a whole nother much bigger conversation. Have we got any Twitter questions, Ed?
Yep, Paul, we have at current Lookie 77 questions. Oh dear. People. Joey Mangini says, Ollie out? ?
I do not like this line of questioning.
I think it was probably irony or something like that.
Yeah, I get it. Interesting question from @SoundBloke. Ben Young, did Fred and Pereira deserve to be dropped? And what has Matic done to deserve to be on the pitch? I mean, I think that Matic, for the most part, has played well during the Solskjaer era, especially in possession. I don't think he did today, but I kind of understand why he would be back in the side. I do think it's a little harsh on Fred in particular. I mean, Pereira's been in and out, hasn't he, even during all the injuries. But yeah, Fred, I think was probably a little bit unlucky to be dropped.
Good game against Paris Saint-Germain, and we haven't seen him since.
I mean, he played against Arsenal as well, and
apart from that one,
mixed reviews. I mean, yeah, played in 50% of the 2 games since then. But yeah, an interesting case, and you know, when I saw that lineup, I thought it was really interesting that Solskjaer's gone back to that. Like I said, that kind of original starting 11, and he obviously thought the players would be fit enough to do it and sharp enough to do it, and probably in the end that was a gamble that didn't work. I mean, one of the things I was going to say when we were talking about the Wolves game is the reasons why that performance was no good are very interesting to me, but I have no sense of what they are. I don't feel like I could really say this is why that collective played well, except for my only guess would be issues around injury and sharpness.
Yeah, as Lucas_M United, friend of the show, says, was our disjointed display at Wolves due to Ole starting so many players returning from injuries at the same time? It might well have been. And maybe he just felt that this is the least of the priorities behind getting into the Champions League and winning the Champions League. And this was the one to get some minutes in those legs. But to your point previously, I thought Matic, he has been okay, but he looked extremely leggy tonight. I mean, just done. And, you know, all those players sort of buzzing around him. And we talked about what a good midfield Wolves have. So there you go. Not quite good enough tonight. Stanley Chow, friend of the show, says, told you Ole's putting those eggs in the Champions League basket. Not a question, Stanley, not a question, but you can get away with it. Yes, we're going to win. Told you. Juve, PSG, Barca, Liverpool, City. Greatest Champions League victory ever.
Honestly, I know this is not the point of the question, but I just get such massive, like, fanboy-itis when the idea that Stan Chow listens to this podcast. @SpecialK_2311 says, what's more likely, Paul coming back to Twitter full-time or United sending Barca out of the Champions League? Leo Messi crying into his cornflakes is considerably more likely, Keenan.
Oh, dear. Benji Wood says, would City winning everything be worse than Liverpool winning the Premier League? And if so, do we need to stop wanting City to win the league? I know. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, look, it's super hard to win a lot of trophies. It just doesn't happen very often. City already have the League Cup in the bag. They've got to be odds-on favourite for the FA Cup. I'd put them odds-on favourite for the leagues. Well, not odds-on, but favourite for the league as well, just because, you know, they are hitting really good form at the right time, and Liverpool are stuttering just a little bit, and I think City's squad depth is better to cope with all these big games, and then I mean, look what they did to Schalke. They could well win the Champions League. Oof. Quadruple. It'd be sickening. We never hear the end of it. Of course, we should preface this whole conversation with go listen to the Backers content from a couple of weeks ago where we talked about their flagrant financial doping, asterisk against all their victories forever.
Yeah, and so in a way, them winning everything wouldn't be as bad as Liverpool winning the league because they don't count. And unfortunately, Liverpool are still a real football club. At Born_and_red, Jake, definitely friend of the show, says, I said friend of a show there. Everyone's probably a friend of some show or other. Nowadays, you definitely know someone who's got a podcast, right? Everyone does in the 21st century.
All the hipsters do.
Anyway, Jake says, Solskjaer's being reactive rather than proactive versus Wolves. Did that surprise you? Did he give Wolves too much credit? And I just wanted to say, Jake, I really don't agree with the premise of the question. I think to argue, in fact, It's quite the opposite. Wolves were, as they were reactive. They sat back, waited for United's possession to break down and hit us on the break. United were attempting to be very proactive, dominated the ball, trying to create
just
chances.
Not very good at it, yeah.
No,
Keown made a similar point in BBC commentary, and I thought at the time, I mean, Keown makes more bad takes per minute than United were making passes, but that was one of his worst of the night. I had 60% possession, so it's just it just weren't doing very much with it, unfortunately. Josh, Uncle Matic _ Love United, hate Glazer. When are United fans going to acknowledge the players at the squad simply aren't good enough? Oh, we're back to this. We're back to this.
Ed, I think you're missing something here. The tag LUHG has been co-opted by a group of fanatical fanatical Mourinhoites.
Yes, no, that's right. And you know what? You're right about that one. So, Josh, off. And I'm going for another one. Andrew Bester says, why is a well-organised back three and wing-backs our kryptonite? And which is a much better question. And we have struggled against this under Ole, it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And the why is very interesting, actually. And I wonder if it's because in a way, apart from those very early games in against teams that we are much better than we have looked best, actually, when we've been reactive. We've looked best when we've soaked up pressure and hit on the break. And the 5-3-2 is obviously quite a hard system to soak up pressure and then hit on the break. I mean, we did it against Tottenham. But he played a back three, didn't he? Unless I've gone mad. He played a back three, and the diamond did for that back three because Martial and Rashford pulled them all over the place, and so did Lingard. And it worked an absolute treat in that game. But apart from that, it's been a formation we haven't been able to counter-attack.
Well, explain the forwards tonight. Martial was wide left, and then Lingard and Rashford were basically a front two. It just felt very imbalanced.
Now, the thing about Martial being wide left was there were a number of questions actually along the lines of like, why doesn't Martial get more criticism? Like, he had a bad game today, but the reason he doesn't get more criticism in inverted commas, because he gets plenty, is that he's absolutely extraordinary when he's on his game, and he does magical things in magical moments, and people will tolerate a lot for that, and rightly so. So they should. But it was clearly a plan that he was playing so far wide left. And I wonder if that was to try and exploit some space behind a wing back and maybe some perceived weakness on that side of Wolves' defence. But it just didn't work at all. There was nothing came from it. And by the second half, that had been completely abandoned as a ploy. You're absolutely right. It was like a very asymmetrical front three, wasn't it? Mm. And I guess part of that is there's just no natural player to play on the right flank, and the closest is probably Lukaku.
Yeah, and once upon a time, Alexis Sanchez was a right winger. He is, of course, injured now, and we may never see him again.
Once upon a time, Alexis Sanchez was a footballer.
Oh, ouch. Daniel Dawkins says, is Ole at the wheel, in cruise control, carrying too many passengers?
People don't half flip out after two results.
I know.
It's been months of absolutely extraordinary... Like a week and a half ago, pulled off the most flipping extraordinary comeback. Literally the only team ever in the history of the Champions League, or maybe even the European Cup, to be 2-0 down after the home leg to win the next leg.
Well, it hadn't been done.
Yeah, exactly. And that, by the way, was almost entirely with the passengers in inverted commas. And people are absolutely infuriating.
Never read the bottom half of the internet. Unfortunately, all these questions are from the bottom half of the internet.
I love you, Dan, by the way. Like, Dan's awesome. Like, that's, but yeah, it's just, I just don't see that. I don't see that take as, like, all these people in the comments, like that idiot LUHG guy you were talking about earlier, people in the comments saying, like, oh, this just proves Jose was right about the squad. What does? One result against Wolves. I mean, I guess the PSG result did prove Jose was right about Scott McTominay, to be fair. But, you know...
just give him the Manager's Player of the Year right now. Anyway.
Exactly. I'm furious. I'm fuming. I wasn't really annoyed by the performance, but I'm really annoyed by the performance of 10% of our listeners, Ed. So.
Just don't take him to heart. Today was the poorest performance we've had. The tempo wasn't high enough and we played into their hands. So says Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Not a question to us. His interview after the game, and I think that's fair enough. So
yeah, absolutely.
Look, I think we're going to do well under Ollie. He's going to get the job permanently. I think United have put it out. Woodward has been briefing. He has apparently already identified the passengers that are going to get dumped. And they are working on the players that are going to come in. So, and we're going to get more performances of the kind that we saw at away at Arsenal, away at Spurs, and away at PSG than the one we saw today under Ole. And we should feel good about that.
Yeah, and we're going to get some performances like the one we saw today, because that's the nature of what it means to sort of rebuild a team, isn't it? Like you're going to get it, and you know, in the early going under Mourinho when he was really struggling. In that very early going that Chris Vokes was talking about last week on the show, you know, I certainly wasn't throwing the book at him at that point by any stretch of the imagination. Even Van Gaal, when he was struggling at first, you know. So this is the first. I mean, I guess there was Burnley, which was kind of I don't think it was that bad, to be honest. The second half against Brighton at home was pretty bad. But this was really the only standout bad performance. And, you know, even PSG at home, that was kind of very understandable under the circumstances. So, yeah, a really poor performance. There'll be one or two more, well, more than one or two more like this, but way more of the other kind. Yeah.
So, Watford next out after the international break. England played Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic. Jesus, my footballing knowledge just 20 years out of date there.
Early 80s.
Yeah.
Back to the early 80s chat from earlier.
Czech Republic and someone else who I've already forgotten. That's how much I care about English football again after the World Cup.
Hasn't taken long, has it?
Hasn't taken long, yeah. And then Watford after that. And Watford, by the way, played very well, I thought, in victory in the FA Cup over Crystal Palace today. Deserve their win. It'll be a tough game because they're doing well this season.
A fascinating club. With a fascinating model that has so far been extremely successful for them, and a real sense of integration in the community and genuine, it's sort of similar to Leicester, I guess, even though the ownership might be kind of, you know, from away from the area or whatever, the sense that part of the job of the owner is to make the club an important part of the community. That's definitely part of Watford's story. If you're interested in more in-depth chat about Watford and just generally football, I would recommend the Tifo Football podcast. And they did an episode about Watford a few weeks ago. And it was really interesting, just a kind of really detailed breakdown of what's been happening there on and off the pitch. And one of the things that's fascinating me about this season is how well Javi Gracia's been doing and how well he's been received. Because Javi Gracia's managerial career is utterly bizarre. Like, this is the biggest job he's ever had by an order of magnitude.
Yeah. I mean, there are some weird things happening in the Premier League this season. I mean, you've got Wolves who, oh, by the way, if you look into their finances, there's another club that financially dopes. That won't surprise you one little bit. If they weren't in the Premier League this season, they'd be on the end of a financial fair play penalty from the Football League. Quite a lot. And the penalties are pretty steep in the Football League, actually. So, and them signing a whole bunch of Portuguese internationals and Watford signing a no-mark manager and doing pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like really, really, really well as well. Like, given that their status, they were in with a legitimate shot of finishing 7th in the Premier League, which is basically top of the league for all but 6 Premier League clubs.
That's right. Well, there you go. I haven't got anything more to say. Have you?
I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit about how Watford might play. That's something we could do. But given that it's 2 weeks away, and given that I'm exhausted, I don't know if I can be bothered, to be honest. It's all very dispiriting, isn't it?
It's at Old Trafford. They will be tight and compact and try and hit United on the break with Troy Deeney and a few other players because they're good at that. So.
And I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that United will win this game. Like, basically, what I mean is we're going to have to play well to win this game. Like they are a very decent side. They've picked up some very decent results. And yeah, it is a game in which we absolutely should win. By the way, it's a game we have to win if we want top four.
I mean, there aren't too many games left, and
No.
And Arsenal have a much easier run in because, of course, we have Chelsea and City still to play.
Yeah, and home games against teams below us in the league are games that we absolutely have to be winning at this point. So pretty much high stakes for every game between now and the end of the season. But annoyingly, none of them in the FA Cup. What a shame that is.
Sad. Well, on that note of complete analysis from us two this week, we'll bid you farewell until after the international break. Enjoy it. England versus some side from Eastern Europe.
Shout out to Anthony Martial. Didn't play well today, but back in the France squad on the basis of much improved performances under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Lovely to see.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. Hello, Patreon backers, and indeed, hello, everyone. Out of the generosity of our hearts, and also because of a technological thing that we're dealing with, this bonus content is available for everybody. So we thought we'd make it super football focused, and talk about and also not just out of the goodness of our hearts and because of a technological failure, but also because the general tone of this week's show was a little on the tetchy side from my part.
Off, BB. Yeah, you should have heard Paul after we stopped recording. Yeah,
I mean, I may have said
the technical thing is that we have a new website, and but we just moved to a new what do they call it, framework, which caused some technical issues with the framework we've been using to podcast for the last nearly 10 years. So just a little bit of a shift having to take place. But I think it's all solved now. The only thing I just don't know exactly is where the feeds go. But we'll work it out.
Yeah, by the time the international break's done, this is a problem that should most likely be solved. But yeah, we wanted to talk about the Champions League in a little bit more detail, the kind of non-United stuff as much as the United stuff, which if you don't normally listen to the bonus content, sometimes we'll do bits and pieces on United, we'll do stuff about non-United football, or occasionally we'll travel outside of the realm of football altogether and talk about movies or books or travel or this sort of thing. Though we haven't done much of that lately, and we should have a kind of Rankcast book club thing or something like that to get back to some of that, I think. But anyway, let's go through the Champions League draw, each game at a time, and give a little preview of what we think are the interesting things about that particular tie.
All right. Well, it all kicks off on the 9th of April with Liverpool versus Porto and Spurs versus City.
I mean, anything other than a comfortable Liverpool win in that game would be pretty surprising, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Porto squeaked past Roma in the last round after extra time. Really squeaked. And Roma's not in as good a position as they've been in the last few years. And this doesn't look like a classic Porto side. Caveat on that one, I don't watch Portuguese football every week.
One thing that, listen, this is something that would normally be exclusively for backers content, but everyone's going to hear this, so I'm a bit more self-conscious than I normally would, but whisper it, I thought Liverpool were really impressive against Bayern Munich, to be honest. Like, that's a really impressive result. And maybe Bayern Munich would just... I mean, they weren't very good, especially not in the second half of that game. I was a little bit surprised by how comfortable it ended up being for Liverpool in the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a Bayern Munich side on the slide. Although, as we spoke about last week, they have now gone back to the top of the Bundesliga, and so regained their typical position in the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
It's far from a classic Bayern side. Just that caveat, but yes, it was an impressive victory by Liverpool, and I'd imagine they're going to be fairly comfortable in beating Porto, because I don't think this is a great Porto side at all. I mean, they've got a few names you'll recognise in Iker Casillas and Maxi Pereira and Eder Militao, who won't be a Porto player for much longer. He's soon to be a Real Madrid player at great expense, but a very, very good player. Pepe, who everyone knows, perhaps he can shithouse them his way past Liverpool. I don't know, but they've got some players you recognise. They've got some decent players, but they're not great.
No, they're not, and they're definitely listen, anything can happen in football. Obviously, that goes without saying for anything that we're about to say, but they're definitely the team that everybody would have wanted to draw in this round, for sure.
By the way, Eder is, I think he'll go on to be one of the best central defenders in world football. He looks like he's got everything from what I've seen of him in the past, and I think he's joining Real Madrid for something like 50 million, which is like going rate for anyone decent at centre back these days.
It certainly is. So what's the next tie?
Spurs v City, and
it's fascinating.
I mean, I'm sure this is not the draw that Spurs wanted, and probably the draw that City wanted. Will Spurs choke on the big occasion once again?
Now we won't
even have the LUHG crowd going on about Pochettino not being good enough for United.
They didn't choke on. They've literally just got past a massive European team who at the time were top of the Bundesliga. Like, smashed them 3-0 at home.
Doesn't count. It wasn't a particularly important game because it wasn't even the quarterfinal.
Unbelievable. The labels that team gets chucked at them. I mean, okay, so they can't buy a win in the league or whatever since then, and more power to them for not being able to do that for our sake. That's genuinely now got proper tasty, the top of the league. The fourth place thing.
But it's very tasty for first and very tasty for second, third and fourth.
I mean,
or third, fourth and fifth.
This is a fascinating clash. In a way, the fact that there's 4 Premier League teams in this is absolutely incredible. I mean, that's the first time since the first season we had a podcast. That's the first time in the history of this podcast, Ed, that there's been 4 Premier League teams in the European quarterfinals. And both the other 2 teams in the top 6, both still in the Europa League as well. So something about the fact that all the best managers in the world are in the Premier League now seems to be having an effect.
What are you talking about? Jose doesn't have a job these days.
We'll talk about that in just a second, actually. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously City are significant favourites for this. It would be so nice if Spurs beat them.
Oh God, wouldn't it just? I was looking at the odds just as we were talking about it earlier. They are odds on. This is City to win a domestic treble. Odds on, and 8-1 to win the quadruple. That seems
odds on to win the treble. Oh, they've already won one of them, I guess. So it's just odds on to win the double from here on out.
Yeah, which I think is fair enough because they should be very short odds on. To win the FA Cup, given who else is in there. So it's 2. That's 2 games where nothing crazy has to happen, and then they win the FA Cup. But then, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they would be even odds on to win the league on their own, given how close it is at the top. But there you go. I think 8-1 for. Well, I mean, like odds on to win the domestic treble, and then 8-1 in effectively an 8-horse race is and
it's saying that they're exactly par, isn't it?
It's exactly par, but it's super difficult. Champions League, obviously, God, great Alan assist there, but we'll see. Hopefully, come on, Spurs, God. Anyway, come on, you Spurs. Ajax Juventus. I'm really looking forward to this one. I mean, given how Ajax played. Talk this week, unfortunately, of Barcelona putting a bid in for Matthias de Ligt. Ajax now make more money out of transfers than like the entire Dutch league put together. But they will, of course, sell if a huge bid comes in because it's their business model. But will be a shame if Barcelona just hoover up every decent Ajax player. But for the moment, they've got a very good team, and they're going to give Rapey Ronaldo a run for his money.
Oh, come on! Are we trying to get through the bonus content without having a meltdown?
Groan's as good as a laugh, they say.
No, I don't like it. I don't like making light of it. Anyway, from a football perspective, Ajax battered Real Madrid in that second game. I mean, they took them to school and battered them, so much so that Real Madrid sacked their manager and then appointed Zinedine Zidane's genes. So you'd messaged me to say that like Mourinho's got the job basically because that was what all the press was saying, and it clearly was someone was telling the press that Mourinho had got the job, or whether that was Mendes or Madrid or whatever, and then maybe someone was just on the phone in tears to Zinedine Zidane being like, please don't make me give this job to Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, and Sergio Ramos.
And they gave the job to Zinedine Zidane, which is, I mean, what a move by Zidane to just skip out. Everything falls apart without him, and he comes back.
Yeah, I know. To talk about legacy, there was that one school of thought that Ferguson was glad it was all going wrong at United because it cemented his legacy. I mean, it hasn't half cemented Zidane's legacy. But the crime against humanity that his dress sense, we can't. I mean, obviously it's a podcast, so it's not a very visual medium.
Everyone's seen these jeans.
Everyone's seen these
bad. Jeans. The thing is, if he was 20, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't understand. That's fine. I'm 20 years older than him. I'm not meant to understand what young people do anymore. But he's a grown man. Like, he's our age. He's like, that would be like you or I going to work in those jeans, Ed. It's not okay.
No, it's really not. It's really not.
I mean, you know, you do you and all that. Everyone's free to roll at their jeans as high as they want. But what a power move it was to wear those jeans to the unveiling. It's like, this is how much you need me. That I not only can I wear jeans to work, which is, you know, it's a power move in and of itself, but I can wear these to work. Amazing. Anyway,
I always wear jeans to work.
Yeah, I know, but that's a power move for you, isn't it?
When I'm not wearing my budgie smugglers.
Come on. Well, you do have to smuggle stuff as part of your international.
Yeah, that's
flying.
Right. That's right. Don't say that too loud because, you know, I'm sure my Chinese colleagues in the Chinese security services are listening to this here podcast since they know I'm coming next week.
That's a good point. And of course, this is not just going out to back us, so they might have listened. Anyway, that tie, to come back all the way, a long way back from Zidane's jeans to that tie, I'm really worried for Ajax in this. I think Juventus are going to be a very, very different prospect from Real Madrid. This Juventus side, obviously Ronaldo was, everything else aside, Ronaldo was just bought to win the Champions League. And they've done everything they could do domestically. They didn't need to strengthen, let alone strengthen by that extent. And he's doing the business for them in that tournament 100%. Like that hat-trick against Atleti it's just pure Ronaldo, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're definitely favourites for this tie, and they're away first as well. So, you know, classic Italian, like get a nick a win in Amsterdam, and yeah, they'll be in prime position. But look, this is an Ajax side full of young players and a few cast-offs, to bolster them, who I don't think will be afraid to play football at all against this Juve side. So I think it will be some very good games, but I would expect Juve to win this one. And it'll be a more open game than they might have expected against Atleti. And I think that's going to suit Ronaldo because, you know, every bit of space he's going to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who's next on the docket?
Well, just a small game at Camp Nou.
Well, I guess we'll talk about that particular tie in more detail. So not at the Camp Nou first, right? Old Trafford first.
Oh, Old Trafford first, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, listen, this is 20 years since 99. It's Ole taking United back to the Camp Nou. This is going to be insufferable. The coverage is going to be absolutely insufferable if, that is, you don't like endlessly thinking about the Champions League final in '99. And to be honest, Ed, I quite like it. So I guess it will be very sufferable.
It will, yeah. Just hope we don't get battered, because that would really spoil our plans for a replay of the '99 final on this here podcast. There's a Manchester United versus Bayern Legends game. I mean, what I was thinking about this one, and they text me like 4 times a day saying, "Have you got your tickets yet? Have you got tickets yet?" And I'm like, "Oh, not yet, but maybe I'll go." Why would any of the Bayern players take part? Oh, let's just go and relive the worst moments of our lives ever.
It's a really good point. And also, like when Carrick had his testimonial, it was he got the 2008 Champions League winning band back together, minus Ronaldo. You kind of think, well, it's not that long ago. A lot of them were still playing. Those who'd retired hadn't retired that long ago. I'm not sure how high quality this is going to be as a football spectacle.
It's going to be a walking pace. But I do want to see Lothar Matthäus like on some crutches or something, because he's like 90, and Samuel Kuffour has got to do a replay of his fist pounding into it. He's got to.
This is just going to be some people that have played for Bayern Munich before, isn't it? Yeah. It's not going to be anyone that played in that game. Fergie,
and
of course,
some dude off One Direction, who'll put some umlauts on his name for the game.
Fergie managing United for that one. Lovely scenes.
Let's just hope Ollie doesn't do his knees in.
Good point. Is he going to play?
Yeah,
I guess he'll be. Oh my god! The ovation he's going to get as the Champions League winning manager that he'll be by that point.
Oh, jeez. Don't jinx it.
I don't think me making a ridiculous claim that we're going to win the Champions League from a position of tremendous tongue-in-cheek jinxes our otherwise likely...
We established on last week's show that it's your fault we've started losing. So...
No, it's bifurcated.
Yeah. And yours. Anyway, that's it. 4 very high-quality games, and Liverpool versus Porto.
Yeah, I mean, kind of interesting that there's an. I mean, what do you? I mentioned the managerial thing earlier. Do you think the fact that both Arsenal and Chelsea are still in the Europa League, and all the top 6 clubs in England are still in European competition this season, do you think there's a trend line working there, or do you think this is just a kind of freak series of coincidences?
I'm not going to say it's a trend line. I don't think it is yet. We'll see whether it's true again next season. Then we can talk about the Premier League breaking the Spanish stranglehold or something like that. But it's a very bad Real Madrid side. They got knocked out. United got a little bit fortunate or just squeaked through. And some very good performances from City and Spurs and Liverpool. So, against good sides, admittedly, but I don't know whether we can call it a trend yet. I'd like to see the pattern over a few years.
I would too, but I think if there is anything, I do think, it has been observed for some time that while the star players of the world aren't necessarily all flocking to the Premier League, there is no doubt a kind of congregation of managerial talent at the top end of the Premier League. So I do think that's kind of interesting. And obviously, I'm talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mostly, but also
he was born to do it, wasn't he? I think Porto should sack whoever their manager is, and I've completely forgotten who it is. And appoint Jose just for this game.
Honestly, like how funny. I mean, it's not funny. I don't know. It's kind of funny that Jose didn't get the Real Madrid job when it looked so inevitable that he was going to. But that looked like the craziest decision in history to appoint him to that job at this point. So I'm not surprised they haven't in a way, but it's just he must be absolutely seething.
Yeah.
All right,
well, that's it for backers content. And everyone else who doesn't normally get these, go to patreon.com and find us and put your money in, because you get high-quality stuff like this every week. And actually, it's normally much better, honest.
Yeah, normally, when people actually have to pay for it, we put loads of work in, though.
Phone this one in.
As we've always said, the show isn't going to be any better. It's just more of the show. So really, it depends on whether you like the show or not. And fortunately, some of you seem to. So massive thanks to everybody that's listened, everyone that asked Twitter questions, even the terrible ones, and especially everyone who chooses to back us. And
apologies if you haven't subscribed, because at some point today, unbeknownst to you, you got 30 seconds of applause into your feed. Several thousand people got this for absolutely no reason at all.
Just because you were testing stuff.
That's right.
All right, bro. Well, here's a round of applause to you for all your hard work on the website, Ed. And we'll be back after the international break, after the Watford game, with another show.
See you then. Bye now.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.